I've been on the road for nearly 30 years. It gets into your system after a while. A strange kind of peace settles in once you've been doing it long enough. Drive, stop, sleep, repeat. You learn the roads like old friends. You know which truck stops have decent food and which rest areas are too sketchy to park in. And more than anything, you learn how to be alone, not just comfortable with it, but protective of it. That kind of solitude gets in your bones. It teaches you to trust your instincts and never second-guess them. It was early, December 2019. South Dakota was already knee-deep in winter, and I'd just finished a long haul from Kansas City. My rig was heavy with a shipment of steel coils, and I was making my way toward Billings. The roads were decent, but the forecast was talking about wind gusts and freezing temps overnight. So, I decided to pull off early and play it safe. I found a rest area off I-90 just outside Rapid City, remote enough to be quiet, but well lit and clean. One other truck was parked toward the far end, engine off. I backed into a space close to the building, facing the highway, set the brakes, did a quick walk around. All good. The snow was coming down harder than I expected, flurries blowing sideways under the parking lot lights. Back in the cab, I fired up the dash cooker and heated a can of beef stew. Cracked the windows just a little for ventilation. Wrapped up in my flannel and hoodie, I ate straight from the can while the radio whispered some old AM station static and distant country music. It was peaceful, familiar, until it WASN single quote. Then came the knock hard, desperate. Driver's side door. I sat there frozen for half a second. That knock wasn't casual. It was panicked, sloppy, and loud, echoing through the cold. I pulled the curtain aside just a little and saw her. A teenage girl, maybe 16, hair wet and stuck to her face. She was pounding on the door with both fists, shouting something I couldn't make out. I rolled the window down just a crack. "Please," she gasped. "Let me in. He's coming. He's right behind me." I scanned the darkness behind her. Just snow and roadside shadows. No movement, no headlights. The snowfall was thick now, blurring the tree line and soaking everything. I've got a daughter about her age, and let me tell you, seeing a kid in that kind of panic triggers something primal. But instinct and training fight each other. "You don't open your door for anyone until you're damn sure who's coming?" I asked. She didn't answer, just banged her hands against the door again. "Please, please." I told her to back up so I could see. She kept pleading. Something wasn't right. Her voice was terrified, but her eyes weren't scanning. They weren't looking around like someone being chased. They were locked on me, like she was waiting for something. I reached over and hit the dash cam's quick record button, then flipped on both side mirrors and the rear spotlight. Nothing in the mirrors, no one behind her, no tire tracks approaching. The storm was too loud, too chaotic. I could barely hear my own breathing, let alone footsteps in the snow. "Back up," I shouted. "Let me see." She blinked at me just once and stopped crying. That stillness, that's what shook me. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away. Not ran-walked. Her figure fan-ished slowly into the storm, swallowed up by the wind and snow. I sat there staring, waiting to see who might appear from the shadows. No one came. I didn't sleep much, kept the engine idling and the cabin locked up tight. At one point, I climbed into the back and grabbed my crowbar just to feel better. I left the radio on low all night and kept looking out the mirrors every Few minutes. Come morning, I checked the footage. My hands were shaking as I clicked through. She hadn't run up. The dash cam caught her walking slowly toward the truck, calm like a stroll. And as she got close to the passenger side, the night vision picked up movement beneath the trailer. A figure, someone crawling flat against the ice toward the front axle, waiting beneath the cab. I hit pause, rewound, watched again. They were using her as bait. She was never being chased. She was the distraction. I reported it. State police came to meet me at the next way station. I handed over the footage. They took it seriously, said they'd had a few similar reports over the past year, especially in colder months. A decoy knocks. The driver opens the door. Someone else ambushes them from the blind side. They asked if I got a license plate, but I didn't. The girl hadn't come from a vehicle. There was no car in the lot, and whoever had been under my rig had slithered out of frame before I could get a clear shot. They never caught anyone. The footage made the rounds on a few trucker forums. A few folks said they'd seen similar setups. One guy swore he got followed out of a rest stop after a girl tried to wave him down in the rain. Another said he saw someone crawl out from beneath a trailer and vanish into the trees nearby. But after that night, I installed undercarriage motion, sensors and an exterior camera rig with infrared. I don't park unless I'm in view of security cams or another driver. Now, I don't care how tired I am. I'd rather pull an 11-hour haul than sleep blind. I've driven through blizzards. I've seen flipped rigs, break-ins, guys tweaking out at 3 a.m. in gas station lots. But that night outside Rapid City, that's the one I think about when I close my eyes, because I've had close calls in bad weather before. But that night, I wasn't fighting the storm. I was fighting something worse. Nearly 8 years of flatbed hauls, all solo. There's a lot of pride in that. You get good at handling the stress, the weight, the solitude. You develop thick skin and a sixth sense about people and places, especially when you're a woman running loads across back roads most folks wouldn't drive in daylight. You learn how to blend in, how to read the layout of a truck stop within seconds, and how to act like you're never unsure of anything, even when your gut's tying itself in knots. It was East Texas, somewhere between Neckardatches and Jasper. I'd just made a delivery and was deadheading to the next pickup near the Louisiana border. It was July 2021, one of those days where the air feels heavy even in the morning. Sky a pale, sweaty gray, cicadas already screaming by noon. The kind of heat that clings to your skin no matter what. Forecast was saying a storm was blowing in, and it felt like the trees knew it too. Everything was still too still. Even the birds had gone quiet. It was just past 4:30 p.m. when I saw her roar, what I thought was her. There's this narrow 2-lane stretch of highway out there. Real quiet, barely any shoulder, no real traffic, no houses for miles. I was maybe 15 miles out from the main road when I saw a figure slumped in the ditch just off the right side. At first I thought it was a deer, but as I got closer, I realized it was a woman's knees tucked to her chest, long dark hair hanging over her face. She wasn't moving. Looked like she was sobbing, shoulders trembling. I remember the way her arms were wrapped around her legs, just tight enough to make it believable. I slowed down real slow, leaned over and rolled the passenger window down. "Hey," I called out. "You all right?" No response. I coasted to a stop. About 20 feet ahead, hazard lights flashing. Grabbed my phone, left the engine idling, and climbed down. I told myself it might be someone who'd been in an accident, someone who needed help but couldn't speak. Still, my hand was wrapped around the handle of my pocket knife as I stepped off the pavement. The second I touched the grass, my gut screamed at me. Something was wrong. I took a few cautious steps toward her. The grass was slick from earlier, drizzle, thick with weeds and vines. I was maybe 10 feet away when I noticed her hair. It didn't move, no shift from the wind. Her skin looked strange, too pale to pale. The posture was too rigid, too posed. And then I saw it, her scalp, the line where the wig was attached. It wasn't a woman, it was a mannequin. I didn't have time to process it. Snap, a branch cracked behind me. I turned just in time to see a man break from the tree line, sprinting straight toward me. He was wearing dark clothes, mud-streaked, face partially covered by a hoodie. In one hand, something shiny metal, a pipe, or maybe a crowbar. I ran, no time to scream, no time to think, just pure adrenaline. I reached the truck, swung myself up by the driver's side rail, and slammed the door shut just as he grabbed for it. His fingers scraped the window. I could see the whites of his eyes wild and locked onto mine. He pounded on the door once hard, then turned and vanished back into the trees. It was like he knew he'd missed his window and didn't want to waste time. I threw the truck into gear and peeled out. Tires skidding in the gravel, fishtailing slightly as I hit the road. I kept checking my mirrors, expecting a car to pull out of the trees behind me, but no one followed. I didn't stop until I reached a gas station 30 miles up the highway. One of those older ones with flickering lights and a single pump. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type the number for 911. I sat in the cab with the engine running until the deputies arrived. 2 county deputies showed up about 40 minutes later, took my statement. I showed them the dash cam footage, which thankfully caught part of it. The moment I stopped, the moment I ran. The man's face was too obscured to ID, but the footage clearly showed the mannequin. They went back out there to check it out. Called me the next day, said the woman was indeed a mannequin. Dressed in torn jeans and a hoodie, wig glued on, no fingerprints, no IDs, just enough detail to make it convincing. From a distance, near the tree line, they found tire tracks, 2 sets discarded beer cans, a used pepper spray canister. Evidence that whoever planned it had done it before and maybe planned to do it again. Said I wasn't the first. 2 months earlier, another driver reported the same setup, same location, but he didn't get out. Just slowed down and kept moving when he noticed the figure didn't react. He called it in too, but by the time law enforcement arrived, the ditch was empty. They never caught the guy or guys. Nobody really knows if it's one predator or a group. Could be a local, could be someone who targets that stretch whenever they think they've got a chance. Whoever it was, they knew what they were doing. After that, I started keeping a crowbar under my seat and a new lock bar on both doors. I added motion lights to the side of the cab and installed a personal GPS alert system. My sister insisted on buying it for me. Every time I stop now, I park nose out. Every time I walk around the rig, I carry a flashlight even in daylight. I still take back roads, still run solo, but I trust my gut now more than ever. If something feels wrong, it is. Because if I'd taken 2 more steps, I don't think I'd be here to warn anyone else. More than a decade in logistics, mostly running specialty loads for contract clients. I'm not a rookie. I know how to check a manifest, weigh axle loads blindfolded, and I've built my whole routine around 3 things. Be early, Be alert, be careful. The routes change, but the mindset doesn't. And when you're unloading at 2 a.m. in a half-lit lot somewhere outside Stockton, that mindset is what keeps you alive. That night, I learned just how thin the line is between control and chaos. It was a Tuesday night, early fall. I had a partial load scheduled to drop at a regional distributor. Industrial Park, edge of the city, standard deal. The kind of place that looks like a maze of chain link and sodium lights. GPS put me at the back gate of the freight lot just after 2:07 a.m., a little behind schedule thanks to some backed up way stations outside Sacramento. Nothing too unusual. There wasn't a gate guard at the front kiosk, but that wasn't unusual either. Happens more often than people think, especially when the night shift's running skeleton crews. Half the time, someone pops out from the side shack with a clipboard and flashlight, waves you through like they know you. You get used to trusting the process. So when I saw a guy in reflective gear and a vest waving me down with a flashlight, I didn't think much of it. He had the full look. High-vis vest, clipboard, even an earpiece with a visible wire running under his collar. Told me the main parking strip was full and they were rerouting overflow to the back row. Said to swing around and take spot 17, just past the loading docks. He was confident. Kulevin joked that he hoped I brought donuts. That line stuck with me weirdly. I gave a tight nod and followed his directions. Turned wide, rolled around the back alley between two buildings, and pulled into the row. A few other trucks were already parked. I didn't recognize the rigs, but again not unusual. This was a major logistics corridor. People came in from all over. My eyes scanned for anything off. Tags, decals, blinkers, tire marks. Nothing screamed trouble. I put the rig in park, climbed down with my clipboard and paperwork. That's when I noticed the guy had followed me on foot. He caught up fast and gestured toward the office door near the far side of the warehouse. "Drop the paperwork inside," he said, waving casually. "Door should be unlocked. Just leave it in the bin." I started toward the office. The lot was too quiet, no idle hums, no forklifts moving. Even the distant highway noise seemed swallowed by the buildings, and then I heard the clank behind me, near the trailer. I turned around and saw another man hood up, sleeves rolled, opening my trailer's rear latch. "What the hell? Hey." He didn't flinch. He was already inside the trailer. I bolted back, the sound of my boots echoing behind me. But before I got halfway, another figure stepped out from between the rows of containers, arms up, casual like he was just walking through. That's when it clicked. It was a crew organized. One guy waved me in. The others moved fast. They were working my trailer like it was theirs, smooth, like they'd done it a dozen times before. I didn't stop to play hero. I turned on my heel, sprinted back to the cab, yanked the door open and climbed inside, slammed the lock, started the engine. I laid on the horn long, repeated blasts echoing. The yard lit up with panic. The guy in the trailer jumped down, hit the pavement running. The one near the containers vanished behind a stack of pallets. The fake lot guard threw up his hands and jogged off like he'd just been startled. It was rehearsed, efficient. They scattered fast. I called dispatch while backing out of the lane, told them what happened. Then I called 911. 2 sheriff units showed up within 20 minutes. By then, the lot was dead quiet, like nothing ever happened. I gave my report. The cops weren't surprised. One of them said, "You'd be surprised how often it happens. These guys post up in industrial parks, use cheap reflective vests and radios to look legit, pick off trailers one at a time. Most drivers don't even notice until they're halfway through the next leg. They check the trailer. For pallets gone, 2 of them, part of a contracted medical shipment. Non-narcotic, but still expensive. I had to call my client and file a full incident report. The weight discrepancy would have triggered flags at the receiver anyway. I was lucky it happened early. The footage was forwarded to the property managers and regional freight security. Still, everyone knew how it would go. No names, no plates, no solid face shots. These crews know blind spots like they've mapped them. They never caught the crew. After that night, I started triple verifying every drop location. I don't pull into any lot without confirming through dispatch. Text alone isn't enough. I call. I wait for someone to verify a name. I make sure the office is manned. I don't follow people just because they have a vest and a flashlight. That night killed my old habits for good. Now I circle the lot twice before I even pull in. I check for security cameras, backup paths, signs of movement. I added an alarm system to the cab and installed a kill switch under the dash, something only. I know how to arm. I've hauled explosives, emergency aid, medical diagnostics gear worth more than my house. But that night, that was the closest I've ever come to being completely blindsided. And the scariest part was how easy they made it look. How normal it all seemed right up until it didn't. I've been hauling containers out of the port of Savannah for almost 20 years. If there's one thing I've learned in this business, it's that the numbers never lie. Every haul has a manifest. Every load is tracked. Times, weight specs, security codes. The system's tight has to be. You get used to double-checking everything. Documents, locations, signatures of the tone of voice on the other end of a dispatch call. That's why I remember that Friday in late November 2022 so clearly, because everything about it felt slightly off. And in my line of work, slightly off is enough to get you robbed. Or worse, I was madroot with a standard container. Nothing flashy. Commercial electronics, shrink-wrapped, manifest matched, tamper seals, intact. I'd run the route before, same exact leg, nothing new. I was maybe 45 minutes outside of Savannah when I got a text, supposedly from dispatch. It was short, urgent, new drop, address, time-sensitive cargo, send confirmation. Now. Last-minute changes happen not often, but it's not unheard of. Usually followed up with a call, new manifest, updated signature forms. This was none of that, just a location pinned on a map. No company name, no contact. Still, I pulled over at a truck stop to double-check. Logged into our scheduling platform. Nothing. The shipment ID was still showing the original drop. Manifests unaltered. No reroute listed. I texted back, need verbal confirmation. No reply then. Driver delay logged. Proceed ASAP to avoid penalty. It was that line that gave me pause. Avoid penalty. Sounds official, but also like someone trying to rush you without raising suspicion. I'd seen scams before, bad intel, hustles where drivers are tricked into swapping trailers. Only to realize later it was never authorized. Still, against my better judgment, I decided to scope the place out before committing. Better safe than blindsided. The address took me to a warehouse lot just off a frontage road west of Pula. Industrial park, a stretch of road with busted asphalt and barely any lights. No signage. One long building. Roll-up doors closed. Only one light on near the back. I pulled up slow. Before I even killed the engine, Two guys in work gloves walked out like they'd been waiting. One was tall, bald, had a forklift already humming. The other wore a bright orange hoodie with no logo. Not unusual in itself, but no badges, no IDs. No clipboards, no manifest readers, just gloves and attitude. I kept the window up, engine idling. "This is the drop for Unit 19B, right?" I asked. The bald one nodded. "Yeah, bring it on back, Doc, too. I need to call dispatch first." The guy in the hoodie gave me a grinner, little too friendly. "Why would you do that?" he said. He sounded way too relaxed. And that smile, it stuck around a little too long. Felt like it was supposed to be a joke, but it wasn't. There was no reason for him to question me checking with my own dispatchant, lest he had something to hide. I rolled the window up, locked the cab, and called dispatch directly. The dispatcher picked up on the second ring. "Hey, we reroute Unit 19B to a warehouse off 36. "What? No, you're still showing Norcross. Who told you that?" "I got a text saying it was time sensitive, urgent drop." She went silent, then carefully, "We never changed your route." "That's not us. Get out of there now." I didn't wait, shifted into reverse. The guy in the forklift was already rolling toward me like he was expecting a full dock-in. The other one started walking up, waving his arms. I backed up faster, swerved left, clipped a stack of pallets but didn't stop. The trailer jolted behind me as I hit the shoulder, and I tore out of there. What rattled me more was that I wasn't alone on that road. A pickup truck had pulled out not long after, me too close behind for comfort. At first, I thought it was just another driver heading the same way, but every time I sped up, the truck sped up. When I slowed down, it slowed too. No headlights flashing, no honking, just steady tailing. I changed lanes a couple of times, and even took a sudden exit, and sure enough, it followed. When I finally pulled into a gas station a few miles down, the truck kept driving past without stopping. That's when I realized I was shaking. I'd kept it together, but now it was hitting me how close I'd come to falling for it. I called the police. It took them 10 minutes to show up. They took my statement, watched the dashcam footage. One officer called in the address. Another sat with me and asked detailed questions. Cargo type, time of text, visual details on the two men. 20 minutes after they left, I got a call back. "They're gone," the officer said. "Warehouse is dark, locked like no one's been there all." Night later, I learned the building had been vacant for months. The crew likely used it as a temporary hijack site. They spoofed the dispatch message, copied real formatting even, used our standard message signature line. That scared me more than anything. It wasn't brute force. It wasn't chaos. It was calm, calculated, efficient, and it almost worked. After that, I changed my whole protocol. I don't just read texts I call. I verify. I ask names. I log the call. In my notes, I don't care how official someone looks, so don't follow anyone unless I've confirmed their identity. I installed a second rear-facing dashcam, upgraded my trailer locks, and I started spreading the word to other drivers. Because if I almost got played, you can bet someone else already has. They didn't need guns, didn't need force. They used a fake address and some cheap work gloves. And the only reason I'm still sitting here is I listened to that voice in my gut. If these stories got under your skin, that's just the beginning. Hit like, subscribe, and drop a commenty. Want to know which story stuck with you? We're not done. Some dangers don't wait in the dark, they follow you into the storm. You've seen what happens on the road. Now, see what happens when the power goes out. Click now to watch for scary thunderstorm horror stories, and listen closely for what's hiding in the rain. Stay sharp, stay safe, and remember, the ones you need to worry about, they don't knock. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.